Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the Palmerston North Convention Centre. Thank you so much for everyone that we've got today in the room. I just want to make a special acknowledgement to the people that are upstairs in the room and the people that are also on the mezzanine floor in the room. We have a very large crowd today. So I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping. You're going to have to bear with me because we're doing housekeeping on 3 levels. So, the exit out of this building is going to be back the main way that you came, whether that's in the level above us, on the mezzanine, or in this room. If you're upstairs, please walk down the stairway, down to the main level, out the front and the back door. In the back rear car park will be our spot to congregate. There are bathrooms on every level. If you should need them, please turn your cell phones off. We also have a defibrillator on site. That's a tricky word. We also have one of those on site in the event that we should need them, and a first aid kit. It is a busy day, so in the event of an emergency, please move calmly and we'll get everyone out safely. Now, with all of that said, I have the pleasure today of introducing the Right Honourable Winston Peters, a man who really in politics here needs no introduction. He has spent his career standing up for New Zealanders and fighting for our party to make this country a better place. Through many chapters, his determination has really set him aside. He's had the goal of building a better future for New Zealand, and I personally think he's delivering. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take our country and our democracy back. And that is why this party, launched on this historic day, is called New Zealand First.
Ladies and gentlemen, guiding a country is like piloting a massive ocean liner. It takes a long time to turn both around. Labour, sadly, no longer represents the workers. They have totally forgotten what a worker is, or even what a worker stands for. The catch cry used to be a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Their focus now is on issues such as race, culture wars, rainbow wars, and ignorantly joining both the Greens and Maori Party on the race to the bottom. This is a most serious time. This is not a time to waste on what we would like to see happen, but rather urgently prepare for what is happening. But to get to where we want to get to, we first have to deal with the plethora of malignant policies enshrouding our nation and stopping progress. We're going to declare war on woke, and long live common sense. Ever since the formation of New Zealand First under First Past the Post, we have stood for the sovereignty of New Zealand citizens in our own country. Our message to the bureaucracy pursuing unmandated, unelected policies is a very simple one. Do you want to be part of the solution, or do you want to remain part of the problem? We are asking you all to take action. If you are for plain speaking over vowel sandwiches, say yes. Yes. If you are for actions, not words, say yes. Yes. If you are performance over promises, say yes. Yes. If you're for common sense over blind ideology, say yes. Yes. As we promised, we are taking our country back. Mr. President, members of the New Zealand First Board, members of Parliament, delegates of New Zealand First nationwide, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this afternoon, filling up downstairs and filling 2 upstairs overflow rooms as well, where we've got a television presentation there, and over 1,000 people have come along this afternoon. Thank you for coming out. Over this weekend, New Zealand First has held its 32nd convention, a time to reflect on our past, our present, and our future. Today's public meeting here in Palmerston North is the culmination of this weekend's event. To all those members who began our political party 32 years ago under a first-past-the-post electoral system, a deep and genuine sentiment of gratitude to you all. It wasn't easy. It is the most successful political party in 109 years. Remember, the Labour Party started in the West Coast in 1916, and then the Reform and Liberal parties met together to form the National Party in 1936. So for 109 years, the only new party that's been that successful is the party we're proud to be members of. Over the decades, your dedication has remained steadfast, and we've grown to become the most successful, as I said, political party in modern New Zealand history. We salute you here today as the next generation, together with a former generation, taking this party forward to two new levels of success. But it ain't been easy. It's come with abuse and attack after attack from those who saw New Zealand First, and still do, as the greatest challenge to blind ideology and social elitism. We, from the very beginning, were for one country, one people, one law, one flag, regardless of gender, race or religion. And we still are. And today we meet here in the great city in Palmerston North, in public, as a political movement in revival with boundless prospects ahead, strong, visionary, whilst being driven by the most elusive quality in politics. And guess what that is? Plain common sense. Yeah. This is an opening meeting, virtually of the campaign, and the meeting is open to the public. You see, we're a modern political party doing politics the old-fashioned way. We go out and meet the people. We travel our country, hold countless meetings to meet with fellow New Zealanders, and we say public meetings because that's what they are. They're public. Not party membership only, not admission by ticket only, not screening the audience first, but fully public meetings as politics should be. We rent the venue when we pay all the associated costs, do all the 101 hard work, and we've come to the Manawatu to speak with you and answer your questions, but there is one catch. If you have come like some did at our March State of the Nation speech in Christchurch, to merely shout out, to lamely try to disrupt, to arrogantly ignore your fellow Kiwis' right to be an audience of peaceful dialogue, then you have come to the wrong place. If some here have that aim, then leave now, raise your own money, rent your own venue, and have your own meeting. It's called democracy. Disrupt here and we will throw you out. We trust you have come along to listen and not to try and hijack a public lawful meeting. We are not going to let bludgeoning Marxism prevail here in the Manawatu or anywhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure in moments of reflection you think, what's going on? But today in New Zealand, we're paying the economic price for political extremism and neoliberal experimentation. So much of our economic wealth is owned now or controlled offshore. It wasn't the past of your parents or grandparents, depending on your age here, but that's the way it is today. Banks, insurance companies, energy companies, and tourism industry companies, Silver Ferns Farms was sold offshore. West Coast Dairy, again, sold offshore. And right here, right now, the Meat Industry Alliance is on the market to Ireland. And Fonterra's Products Division is on the market to, France. All when agricultural prices are not going down, but going up. So what on earth's going on? And I'm sure you're asking yourself this question: when, oh when, will we New Zealanders ever learn? New Zealand First will stop the overseas fire sale that's been going on for years. We've done it in the past, and we're setting out to stop it again. That is why today New Zealand First announces our policy in response. KiwiSaver is going to be reformed. KiwiSaver will become compulsory. Both the employee and the employer contributions will be increased to at least 8% first, then later to 10%. But here's the difference. KiwiSavers and employers will receive tax cuts to cover the increases. Ladies and gentlemen, recently, because of Labor's appalling economic management, a number of small but critical provincial airlines and services were in trouble, deep trouble, threatening to close down. Shane Jones and New Zealand's First Regional Infrastructure Fund stepped in to save them. Those airlines serve our provincial exporters, and those people are critical, and so are the airlines. We stepped up to save them. It's not a subsidy, it's a smart investment until times are better. And this is an example of those certain circumstances where government intervention is essential. And around this country, New Zealand First has helped like that over and over and over again. You go to a Portakini and you'll see the biggest mussel farm in the world being built. The biggest in the whole world. All around the country there are project after projects which we were slammed off and slammed over for being some sort of slush fund, they said. Except when we went to the opening of all these businesses, we were getting knocked aside by all the other politicians wanting to be part of the success story. You recognise that? And it's a fact, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we have to reflect on the economy that we inherited. In 2023, the dire state of the economy was in a very, very, very difficult picture. It was grossly understated and misunderstood by most. Just cast your mind back for a moment on those months of 2023 when one side was saying, just let us keep going, we'll make it better, and the other side was saying, just elect us, we can fix it. Really? Did they not understand how bad it was? Well, we're not coming to you to say we're late bloomers and late learners. No, we were saying it right back then. On March the 15th, when the quarterly came out in 2023, we said this country is in dire straits, and we said it right to the end of the election. The sad thing that others did was to say that they could fix it. Now, when you've got a mountainous problem, if you're a farmer or a businessman or woman, you know you're not going to do that overnight. But they literally did. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes time to turn around the economic tanker the Labour Party left this government. It's imperative we get our economy pointing in the right direction, and we are. But the difficulty cannot be understated. The people who are reeling and feeling it at the most are the hard-working Kiwis who are bearing the reality that has been biting them and continues to bite them every day. New Zealand First understands with great clarity the struggles of workers in our country who are working harder, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, just to get by, to afford food for the table, rent, fuel prices, clothes for their kids, power bills, and affordable, reliable, essential services. And a worker is no longer just what they traditionally were. They can be a businessman and woman, a professional man and woman, slogging it out to try and make things work for them, their family, their community, and above all, hopefully, their country. We understand that responsibility, that we as a government have to make progress and give hope and relief to ordinary New Zealanders. Oh, and by the way, if you're going to be a workers' party, you better know something about physical work. Do you not think? When you're talking to them, ask them to hold a hand down like that and start counting the lack of veins they've got in their hand. You'll know whether they've done any work or not. Ladies and gentlemen, we were left with an out-of-control Labour Party debt caused by a myriad of wasteful, failed ideological projects and ballooning inflation. You know that famous song by Roy Orbison? Well, it became their manifesto. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you need, you got it. And they put in the part baby at the end of it as well. But it's a song, it's not a manifesto, and that's what they did. Anything you want, you got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a long, long task ahead of us. The waste, incompetence and indifference that has led us to grappling with the struggling economy left by Labour is going to be never-ending, which is why they have no policies in their manifesto to fix it. They've got nothing. They have left us with a mess and now shout, "You fix it," all the while being encouraged by a culpable mainstream media. We need to remember some words that we used to know a lot about in countries like Ireland, Singapore, dare I say it, Croatia right now, Poland and other countries are adopting it as fast as they can. We need to remember some words like incentivisation and investment to get our economy running again. That's why we've already started to lay the pathway to help industries by fast-tracking essential economy-building, job-creating projects. It means that we focus on already successful industries whilst we rapidly build new ones in areas as diverse as agriculture, mining and critical minerals. It means enabling bright new entrepreneurs to sprout their enterprise in New Zealand and rapidly build them in our national interest. And that will require us to sideline the sandal-clad, greeny, Luddite activists who, for ideological extremism, would rather see our economy tank than to progress better lives for ordinary Kiwis. And by the way, nearly all of them, 99.9%, will be on the taxpayer's teat. They'll never have their own job, never their own risk. No, you're paying for it, but they are so elite, they expect you, the mass majority, the master in this process, to be their servant. We need less bureaucracy and less of those woke elitists holding our country up, less red, brown and green tape, less of the woke, pill-clutching do-gooders, and more of the plain old Kiwi can-doers. Yes. The reality is, as we've said over and over again in the last campaign, this economic and social recovery is going to take time. This is particularly so given the recent uncertain geostrategic events. You've all observed them on your news and television at night. We can now see a better sky, though, on the horizon. We have made good progress, but the hard work is not yet over. We take our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, very seriously. Remember, on countless occasions, over many, many years and decades, we've raised the roof when no other party would raise their finger. I'll talk about one of those things later on, but over year after year after year, I can think all that matters, and no one would say a darn thing because they're too scared that somebody might heavy them. Well, we weren't scared, and we just went out there and said it. You know, on the question of immigration, how many times have we been attacked for being xenophobic? Now, they love that word because it's got a lot of vowels. And if you've got a lot of vowels, it means when you're speaking, then obviously you're trained, clever and smart. They love vowel sandwiches. Called xenophobic or racist. And look around the world. It calls to mind the quote from the Mikado. Some of you will have seen it. About these people, where in that play it says, "The idiot who praises with enthusiastic tone all centuries but this, and every country but his own." We need a focus on smarter immigration policies, where we shift the dial to highly skilled critical workforces that our country needs, and provide real reasons for those Kiwis to stay in New Zealand to rebuild our country together. We need the right, smart type of immigrant, as the OECD has been saying for years. And we need to keep our own people here as well, because we've got policies to keep them here. A system that consistently provides the skills we need domestically, working alongside the education system which fills the skills we need in our industries. More practical learning. We need a smart immigration system that focuses on the needs of the employers, industry, and Kiwi workers. Smart, not more immigration. Ladies and gentlemen, this will come as a surprise to most as it did to us, but 30% of all current New Zealand residents were not even born in New Zealand. That's almost 1/3 of all who live in New Zealand weren't born here. 30 years ago, in the 1990s, that figure was less than half that, just 14%. On that same upward trend, without smart immigration policies, in as little as another 15 or 20 years, that percentage will be approaching 50% of people living here, not born here. That's your children and grandchildren's generation. It's not just about the number of immigrants coming into our country. It is about all those young, trained, driven, smart, working-age Kiwis that are leaving, no longer just for OE, but forever. Under Labour's final year, they let in a massive 132,000 new immigrants net. There was a record number of people leaving New Zealand to go to Australia last year, the year after that, and going to Australia to apply to be citizens. The most concerning statistic is that half of those New Zealand citizens who left were not even born in New Zealand. So what's your conclusion? I'm sure it's like ours. New Zealand is being used as a stepping stone into Australia, and we want to be used no more. We take them in, train them, upskill them, look after their families, and then they move to Australia or elsewhere. How is this an effective immigration policy? But look at the parties in Parliament who persist in arguing for that. The fact is, in the past 4 years, around 622,000 new migrants have come to this country, with a net number of 165,000, or a population increase the size of Hamilton in just over 4 years. But the past is not the most concerning part. It's where we could be headed without a smart immigration policy, and what that means for the future of our country. Concerns are growing as to some of the people who come here who don't salute our flag, don't honour our values, don't honour our country, and don't respect the people living here. These are values that we need to fight to protect. If you don't want to sign up to those values, then we've got a very fair answer. Don't come. It sometimes shivers for us to say this, but New Zealand First is a nationalist party. Apparently there's something awful about being a nationalist or patriotic. Other parties are self-confessed globalists. Kiwis are becoming increasingly worried about immigration issues. They have to be if they're watching their television sets. People around the world are fearful as to where their countries are going. Just look at some of the states in the United States. or in the UK right now in many cities, or in Ireland right now, or Germany, and recently next door in Australia. And New Zealanders are no different in their concerns. They are more acutely aware of the problem we're dealing with here than nearly all of those politicians in Wellington. But you're not surprised, are you? They have seen the international circumstances of careless immigration, transforming cities, changing cultures, changing centuries of development and social life, and people feel at real risk because of it. That is why New Zealand First will be campaigning on all new migrants needing to sign up first to our Kiwi values document, giving a commitment to respect our country and our culture, or don't come here. And before some rush off in the mainstream media, from the very beginning, the foundation principle of New Zealand First was that we are never going to be against sound immigration. But we have a responsibility to educate, train and employ our own people first. And so those who wish to call us racist or xenophobic, those people who can't even spell the word, we've got news for you, and it's all bad. We are not xenophobic, we are nationalists, and we are patriotic, and we believe in our country. You know, ladies and gentlemen, they paint nationalism as something evil. We say we must stand for nationalism because it's critical for the future survival of our country, our nation. We believe in a country called New Zealand. I'll say it slowly for Radio New Zealand, TVNZ and all the mainstream media. We believe in a country called New Zealand. It's the one that when you go to the United Nations, you'll see signed up there. Not the other names you're giving our country. We believe in a country called New Zealand, with one law, one people, one flag, and one set of values that our forebears fought and died for. And if we are the only party willing to stand in the way of globalist politicians and bureaucrats trying to take our country away, then so be it. Oh, by the way, I'm talking about things that have happened where none of these parties ever came and spoke to you about what you wanted or what you thought. Never got a mandate from you. Never seemed to understand that in a thing called politics, in a democracy, you're the master. Not them. But when did they ever ask you? No, they try to fill you with a whole lot of foul sandwich crap about how good it could be. You know, we need to focus on smarter immigration policies where we shift the dial to a highly skilled critical workforce that our country needs and provide real answers and real reasons for these Kiwis to stay in New Zealand to rebuild our country together. A system that consistently provides the skills we need domestically, working alongside the education system which fills the skills we need in our industries. We need a smarter immigration system that focuses on the needs of the employers, industry and Kiwi workers. Smart, not more immigration. And by the way, they should be coming to New Zealand, not to Queen Street, but to the provinces. Why? Because that's where the wealth is. That's where the economy kept us going during the troubled days of COVID, when the Labour Party finally found out, oh, these country people are important after all. They're keeping our economy going. Whilst they were spending money like an 8-armed octopus and spending it in Auckland. You would have seen in the introduction that we've declared a war on woke and a fight for our freedoms. It's actually quite amusing to go back to when we first declared our war on woke and the number of journalists who were stunned, like, what does that mean? As though they didn't know. One good look in the mirror would tell them what woke looks like. Earlier this year, at our State of the Nation speech, New Zealand first declared a war on woke and long live common sense. We've won many battles over the last 18 months and over the last 32 years, but the war is not over. As John Philpott Curran said in the late 18th century, these words, "The condition upon which God hath given liberty to man is eternal vigilance." Ladies and gentlemen, and we must be vigilant. The woke agenda of the left has crept in like a cancer that has spread so deep into our divisive thinking that it's become their sole focus. You hear woke words from the out-of-touch lefty politicians and bureaucrats alike, like, quotes, "pregnant person." Think about it. And these mainstream media people are publishing it. Pregnant person. Or, quotes, "person who chest feeds," end of quotes. When you take time to stop and think how stupid that looks or sounds, it starts to sink in. But no, they've been getting away with it. And then, quotes, "it, they, them, us, and fury," end of quotes. You like that? It, they, them, us, and fury. You will see them advocating for biological men to participate in women's sports, to allow men into girls' and women's bathrooms. Good heavens, when we said that in the 23 campaign, there were parties all over the country saying, "these guys are off the planet." No, we're on our planet, not yours. The woke left are willing to cower to the few and isolate the vast majority of Kiwis who just want to be left alone to live their lives without the constant wokeness being pushed down their throats. That's why New Zealand First is fighting this war on woke, for your right to just get on with your lives without fear of being cancelled, gaslit and shut out. Oh, and when we raised that issue 2 years ago, they all said we were going down a rabbit hole. It's a new expression they've got, of course. They haven't seen or listened to or watched Watership Down. But New Zealand First is going down a rabbit hole. In this case, they were right. We're going down that rabbit hole to get you rabbits, and as fast as possible. You know, Hopkins, or Hipkins, what's his name? Hipkins. The sausage roll leader. Did you remember the 23 campaign? Look, we're holding meetings packed all over this country, like this, over and over. We were down in Invercargill last week, and Gore and Mataura, and all over the place. Shane's been all over the place as well. All of our team's been all over the place. But Hipkins was in the last campaign spending all his time on TV and making 6 o'clock news eating sausage rolls. Where was that in the manifesto? And he wants to be Prime Minister of this country again. And he still can't define what a woman is. But have you thought about it? I bet you have. It'll be most interesting to try to find out what his definition of what a man is. Come on, mainstream media, how about asking that question? You're still waiting for an answer to the first one. Maybe you can answer the second one. Maybe he'll say it's the opposite of the first one. But for goodness sake, get him to say something. We've been constant and adamant on our pushback on woke ideology and our laws, our systems, our bureaucracy and our society. But ladies and gentlemen, don't think it's easy. You've got certain people who sit there, I know in the bureaucracy, and I've been in the game a long time, and they've got this attitude a bit like, you know, the old poem about Father Thames, the River Thames in London, which they think about themselves as the bureaucracy. The story about the River Thames is for men may go and men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. And this bureaucracy is thinking, yeah, but you might be here for a while, but you'll be gone shortly and I'll get back to what I was doing before. And our message is, listen, sunshine, we've got bad news for you. We catch you doing that, you're going to be gone. Because your job is to listen to the people. They're the masters, and they've sent us here to do and mandated and voted for a job. New Zealand First is a party that ensured the removal of the gender participation guidelines for Sports New Zealand happened. We did that. It's not about being anti-anyone or anti-anything or stopping anyone from participating in sports. This is about girls, women, safety and fairness, for goodness sake. We have written and submitted members' bills and legislation on a number of issues, and they'll get there in time to be part of government policy. Fair access to bathrooms. Can you believe this sort of stuff having to be attacked now, where no one with a male appendage will be walking into a female bathroom? Why don't you bail the others up and say, "Do you happy for that to happen?" See what they say. But watch how evasive their language is. We're for protection of freedom of expression, where your voice will be heard at any government-owned property without fear of being cancelled or shut out. Amen. And we're reinstating the mandatory referendum on the locals' choice for having fluoride in your water. As to whether you like fluoride in it or not, it'll be your choice, not some bunch of bureaucrats in Wellington. And we've got a definition of what a woman and man are, where we ridiculously have to actually define what a woman is in law because of what's crept in. All that was assumed down through the centuries and millennial. All of a sudden, this modern age of bureaucrats and politicians has changed without any access to you at all. But for Mr. Hipkins, for his benefit, a woman is an adult human female. No, I won't say that. I was going to say, I think he kind of knows it, if I know him, but he doesn't want to say so for offending too many of his woke supporters. As to the display of flags, only official New Zealand flags will be displayed on our government buildings and not be used as some political protest group's platform for their wacky or foreign flags being shoved down our throats. And on cash transactions, where we are fighting for your right to always have the ability to use cash for any transaction. And it's ironic that there needs to be legislation for this, as it's written on the note, the legal notes, that is, the legal cash notes, that it's legal tender. It says it there. Yeah. New Zealand's name of state, the name of our country, where we have to legislate that our country's name is actually New Zealand and not Aotearoa, which was a name ironically given all the impetus by a colonialist William Pember Reeves in the late 19th century. These left-wing radicals screaming for a name change are now down the same pathway as a colonialist who suggested the idea when it was never the name for New Zealand. It's a name out of French Polynesia, and it's most definitely not the name of the South Island. So the name will become New Zealand. So when we get to the United Nations, they'll still know who we are. When we go to the World Bank, they'll still say, what's that country? There's no country here called that. No, it'll be called New Zealand. And anti-woke banking. We're going to make sure that in the House we debate this issue so that banks can't deny you service because of their woke ideology. It's your money, and they're not going to control what they do in that respect because there's plenty of options to them. And also on the protection of physical identification, where we're fighting to protect you from the new age of digital ID overreach. There'll be those that say, oh, you're trying to fight against modernity. No, we're not. We're trying to fight for something that's been passed down through the centuries, the right to privacy. And in addition, a government announcement that we're making today pertains to one of New Zealand First's coalition agreement policies. You won't believe the necessity for this, but the day has arrived. Cabinet agreed last week that legislation will be brought into the House shortly, where English is finally officially legislated to become an official language of New Zealand. This language that began in a small village hundreds and hundreds of years ago in Germany, got its way to England, and is now the language of commerce worldwide, is going to be an official language in this country because it's under attack from all sort of left-wing Looney Tuners. Mind you, if double Dutch is their specialty, you can see why they don't like English. This is another promise that we've made, and this is another promise we are keeping. We understand with great clarity the importance of our mission. There is much more to come. We are continuing to fight against the woke diversity, equality, and inclusion in our departments and systems. Diversity, equality, and inclusion in our department and systems. We're continuing to fight against the use of puberty blockers in children. And we are continuing to fight against the ridiculous relationship and sexual education in our schools. To those people with earmuffs on or deliberately deaf, we're telling you, we need education in our schools, not indoctrination. There'll be much more said about that in a short while. But by the way, as for those unelected elitist globalist organisations, decisions about how New Zealand responds to any health emergency are going to be made in Wellington, not Geneva. We'll preserve New Zealand's sovereign decision-making ability. Ladies and gentlemen, it sometimes may seem to some that this war on woke and the wacky that we are facing may be insurmountable because it's so deeply embedded in our bureaucracy, university and government departments. And the first thing they do when anybody questions it is to start attacking that person's background or values. Not the logic, not the fairness, just that person. That's their idea of coming to decisions. As a small minority, that's how they've succeeded, because they've frightened people off. And most people just want to get on with their lives because they're too busy. It's so embedded in our bureaucracy, universities and government departments. But we have to remain eternally optimistic. It's the only chance you and I have. No one said it would be easy, but we will continue the fight for you, for our country, and for future generations. And on this other issue of climate change, there's been much said about the Paris Agreement of late, which is faux outrage at our being the first party to call for its re-evaluation and New Zealand's place in the agreement. Here are some facts. In 2016, the then National ACT and Maori Party government ratified and signed up to an agreement at Paris. Paula Bennett went to Geneva in the dead of night and signed this country up to it on behalf of that government. It led to the 2016 resolution by the then government. For all the good intention, and there was, for all the good intention and that there was, it was steeped in naivety. As the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. As was stated earlier in this year's State of the Nation speech, and much earlier on the 21st of January on a television show, it's sobering to hear the stats and facts that our country is now finding itself in with the Paris Agreement. Some of the world's largest economies have no intention of honouring the targets set out in that agreement. That means no matter what you and I do, our sacrifice will make no difference. We're still in trying to honour our commitments by all these people with these bell sandwiches and waving their hands around like an Italian waiter all the time they're explaining on TV. in trying to honour our commitments, 22 billion plus. 22 billion plus of our hard-earned taxpayers' money will be siphoned offshore in a total self-defeating economic and climatic shambles. It's just common sense that instead of draining our money offshore into foreign economies, we invest in looking after our own environment right here in New Zealand. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the facts. Just under 60%, just under 60% of the world's CO2 emissions come from 4 countries: China, United States, Russia and India. Just on 60%. New Zealand's emissions, in contrast, amount to only around 0.7%. Why are we making a rod for our own backs, punishing our farmers and our taxpayers and our economy, when China or the US could sneeze and produce more CO2 overnight than we do in a year? Those are the facts. How is that solving global climate problems? And that's why we were the first to call for the re-evaluation of our Paris commitments months ago. We need to stop this ideological flight of futility. The facts don't bear them out. And to just carry on like Greta, what's her name? Thunberg? Well, as Morris Winston would say, when Greta's plan, all guitars will be electric by 2030. Hold on, blah, 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 blah. It's a total flight of futility. The Labour Greens Maori Party, though, is something to be really concerned about. They'd be an absolute circus and utterly destroy our country economically and socially. Do not underestimate the damage that they would do. They have become the parties of moral outrage, obsessed with accusations, gotcha politics, woke ideology, and opposing anything that happens to offend anyone that gets offended. You must not offend your husband, your wife, your kids, your mother, your grandmother. That's out nowadays. The Greens, well, they're in total disarray. They are now up to list member number 20 coming into Parliament on October the 3rd. The present one is going because he's under terrible safety threat. But he's not going now, he's going in 4 weeks' time. Has anybody in the media got that? He's so much under threat, he's not going the day he said it. No, he's going to go 4 weeks later. So let's wait till we hear the real reasons, shall we? Well, list number 20 is coming in, whoever that might be. No doubt they'll bring the same array of wacky wish lists and woke ideals. And then we have Chloe, who as a teenager stood and said she was fit to be the mayor of the biggest municipality in all of Australasia, the Auckland Super City. Now, ladies and gentlemen, no one's anti-young people, quite the converse. We've got a stack of young New Zealand First people here today. You know why? Because they're smart. And they came to our conference because they're clever. They know that for 60 seconds of every minute, for 60 minutes of every hour, for every hour of every day, for every day of every week, for every week of every year, politics is going to be in control of their lives. So they want to get involved now. And they're right. But no, she stood and she said, I'm totally equipped to be the mayor of Auckland. Now she's saying she wants to be the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. Anything you want, you got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd end up in a Soviet-era communist state within 3 years. They don't care about, nor do they understand the reality of our economic and social future as a country. They care more about gender, wokeness, unicorns, and a geopolitical war happening on the other side of the world that they know exactly nothing about. When was the last time they asked a question in the House about climate or the environment? Come on, you watch the House. When was they last asked a question about the climate or the environment? Or Maori babies being murdered? Where are their protests on those matters? The Green Party of just 20 years ago has morphed from an environmentally focused party with some values to back that up to a valueless, rudderless party who think that anyone that disagrees with them is evil and should be shouted down. And as for Te Pāti Māori, well, you know, there are a lot of people in this audience who are like me, who got Maori in them, and we're proud of it. We've got Scottish in us, and we're proud of that. We're Irish in us, and we're proud of that. Or Welsh, or dare I say it, English. Or Croatian, or Italian, or whatever, but we're proud of it. And so we're proud of our background. Gives you a natural suntan and a desire to save money. You know, the Maori Party have tried their hardest to be the martyrs in the media. To be the martyrs in the media for their shallow, transparent causes. But no one asks them who they actually purport to represent. They suffer from the same affliction of the Greens, thinking they represent everything green. They don't. Just as the Maori Party don't represent Maori. As the saying goes, to be ignorant of one's ignorance is the malady of the ignorant. And boy, do they display it. They claim that 20% of New Zealand are Maori. Now, even if that was true, then the Maori Party's only achieved 3% of the vote. So how can they be the voice for Maori? Come on, mainstream media, you do the maths. Or I'll come along with an abacus later on and see if I can help you. The mass majority of Maori did not vote for them. So who do they exactly represent? Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that the Maori Party is not pro-Maori. They are anti-white. And according to a recent post from one of their most arrogant MPs, they are anti-Asian, anti-Indian, and anti-black too. In fact, they are anti the wrong blood quantum Maori. They are anti the, quotes, wrong blood quantum Maori also. They say it themselves. They've said it in Parliament. If you are Maori and don't agree with their views, then you are the wrong kind of Maori. How racist can you get? Rawiri, haven't you got a mirror? I'll send you one. Just breathtaking. And it's published. They're not pro-Maori. They are anti-democracy. They want a totalitarian race-based separatist society, separatist country. They want a separate parliament, separate laws, and separate land. We're not making this up. That's literally what they say, and they write it down and they put it in their advertising. That is why they'll always be so divisive in their rhetoric. That's who they are, and that's what they do. And who wants to work with them? The Labour Party. The Labour Party. Maybe Hipkins needs to start answering some questions on the Maori Party and what his plans will be. This should be highly concerning for every voter out there, and the media need to start doing their jobs and getting some answers out of Labour and Hipkins. As for the electoral returns, where are the authorities? As for the Maori Party's electoral returns from the 2023 election, where are these authorities? Every other party's had to file on time. They're 2 years overdue. Where are these authorities? And where are the mainstream media screaming at the authorities, what the H are you not doing? When are you going to start doing your job? Statutory charged to, financed to, paid to do. When are you going to start doing your job? Where's the media hounding them daily about this? Everyone in this room today will know one thing for certain. If it was New Zealand first in this position, we'd be front page every day and half of the press gallery camped outside our houses. Remember, just like they were, when that malicious dumbbell Serious Fraud Office took us on in 2020 election and said they were investigating us. Said it in April. We ended up in 3 court cases. We won the whole lot. Smashed them. They spent $4,200,000 of taxpayers' money attacking us. They lost all 3 cases and they never published one word. This is the rotten society we're in. And some of us are not putting up with it. That's why we're motivated. Did you ever see an apology from the media? I'll pay you $10,000. The first person can say, I've got an apology on the media from that. Come on. I'm feeling pretty safe, though. Almost 2 years later, I'm feeling pretty safe. Now, contrast that with what's happening in the Maori Party and the authorities with their hands-off approach. Ladies and gentlemen, this has an acrid stench to it at all levels. And as for Labor, ladies and gentlemen, just remember one thing. The spiritual home of the Labor Party is the West Coast. Many of you will have been down there, and it's quite an inspiration when you're young, as a young student, to go and see Black Ball and see where the whole thing started and see all the famous faces up there and hear about the cause. Start on the West Coast, the site of the miners' strike in 1908, which started the Labor Party in 1916, the party that used to represent the workers of New Zealand, the gold miners, the coal miners, the labourers, the foresters, the fishermen, the hard-working blue-collar battlers of our country. The catch cry used to be a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Or they reversed it to a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Didn't matter, that was the deal. They represented those workers in the very industries which now have become the anathema of who and what the Labor Party represents today. That's a fact. They've utterly turned their backs on them. They'd rather import inferior Indonesian coal than let them use our own, just to placate their conscience. Who do Labor represent now? It seems they don't even know themselves. The fact is, the last 3 years of the Labor government oversaw a deteriorating economy, deteriorating education and health systems, worsening law and order on our streets, massively increased debt, record immigration, crumbling infrastructure, and a cost of living crisis and a hugely divided society, plus inflation heading to 7.5%. They are all the facts. The Labor Party has sadly descended away from its roots and have abandoned and forgotten the very people and industries who founded their party over 100 years ago. The Labor Party's focus is now on issues such as race, diversity, equity and inclusion, wokeness and drumming up racial rhetoric that only serves to divide our country and ignores the vast majority of New Zealanders who just want a functioning health system. This is what New Zealanders want all over the country, Invercargill to Kaitaia, from Portuguese all the way to the West Coast. They just want a functioning health system, a top-class education for their kids, for the escalator for that kid to be on to go as far as that kid wants to go if they're prepared to work. They want first world wages, competing with the best in the world, and an affordable home. Those are the 4 things that New Zealanders want, right across all the races, all the genders, everything. All the Christian beliefs, all the other beliefs. Those 4 things are what unite people, and that's what we've got to focus on. But Labor doesn't care anymore. To now focus on woke, globalist, Marxist economic, cultural and social engineering policies, as they do now, shows just how shallow and impotent the once great Labor Party of Savage, Fraser and Kirk has become. The Labour Party left middle New Zealand a long time ago. It's clear how shallow and impotent they've become. Labour no longer represents or wants to represent the workers. Don't you find it strange how we have repeatedly called Labour and the Greens and Te Pāti Māori a bunch of Marxists, but they have never sued us or got up and denied it. It's breathtaking. You try that in your previous period, because it's true. This is a form of ideology from a bunch of people who are too dumb to know that Karl Marx was responsible for millions and millions of deaths and suffering of millions and millions more. This is the social cancer of our society, and it's represented sadly in our parliament. And ladies and gentlemen, we must just also talk about COVID. Do you remember the COVID years? The podium of truth? Well, some of us got sent home and got shut out, even though we were the Deputy Prime Minister. Apparently, age was our problem. God knows what their problem is now. But Jacinda Ardern, Chris Hipkins, Grant Robinson, Elsa Beryl have all concluded and decided, they've all concluded and colluded and decided to decline to give evidence at the COVID-19 Royal Commission public hearings. The podium of truth has become the podium of evasion. These former ministers don't want to sit in a public hearing and answer the hard questions that every New Zealander needs to know and deserves to know. If there was a definition for a different kind of abuse of power, this is it. We demand a second inquiry to ensure there was a public accountability for the decisions being made during the pandemic. And I offered to turn up myself, and I'm happy to turn up myself. I'll be very pleased to tell them what happened, as much as I could find out at the time. But these former Labour ministers are undermining the very action and purpose of the inquiry to avoid public scrutiny. They claim to be the most transparent government ever. The Commission has stated today that the COVID-19 pandemic was a significant event that affected every New Zealander. And we remain of the view that the public being able to see former ministers questioned about those decisions at a public hearing of the Royal Commission of Inquiry would significantly enhance public confidence in our process. It certainly would. That's all they've got to do, go along and answer the questions. Those former Labour ministers have shown that they care nothing about public confidence, and worse, they are treating the entire public with disdain and contempt. The Royal Commission has stated that the refusal of former ministers, in this case to attend the public hearing, is a refusal to answer questions in the public hearing. That's what the Commission has said. Those former ministers were at the heart of decisions that affected hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders. Cost livelihoods, careers, businesses, connections and families. Have a disastrous effect on the economy and future of the country. And yet they refuse here now to be held to account. You deserve better. The Labour and Greens and Maori parties are all out there espousing the same values and views of the unelected global totalitarian elites, all who want to design some sort of faux power future or faux utopia future for the country. And they all do it under the lie that it is all in the name of protecting our future generations. If that was true, they'd be at the inquiry to make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. Now, of course, protecting our future generations is, by the way, exactly what Stalin and Marx said. Those people are now littered in the Greens, Labour and Maori parties, and dare I say it, far too many in our bureaucracy. New Zealand First, ladies and gentlemen, can proudly make this claim, and knowing it will not be refuted. We're the only true nationalist party in this country. We are a party that believes in our country, puts New Zealanders first, and ensures we don't have global Marxist cultural influences ruining the economic, social life and security of this country. We are New Zealand first. So thank you for coming out in the Manawatu in such numbers. 5 times what the Green Party had at their conference. But ladies and gentlemen, we are all here because we love our country and we want to be proud of it. So it's not just about politics. True democracy is a rare flower in the multi-millennial history of humanity. Going back thousands and thousands of years, what you're enjoying at its best is a rare flower. We have inherited a gift of a free country, and our job is to preserve it. We'll be remembered for our stamina, our perseverance, and our commitment to a free and just society. In the words of Starship, and nothing is going to stop us now. We're all New Zealanders. We're all New Zealanders, the heirs of a once world-leading country, and now seeking to restore that heritage for our children and generations yet to come. Our forebears didn't let us down, and let us not let our future generations down therefore. We are the generational heirs of a God-given gift, freedom in God's own country, and all equal. If you are for one country, if you're for one people, for one flag, one law for all, and all equal before it, then we are asking you to join up, become part of a rightful cause, be part of our mission with one clarion call. We are going to put New Zealand first. Thank you very much for coming out. Now we've got to get on the plane, hit the. We've got to, remember that fellow, that singer called Ray Charles? Yeah. Famous blind singer? Well, we got caught by his song, but we got to go soon. But he had a famous song, guess what it's called? Hit the Road, Jack. Thank you. Thank you.